Hello and welcome to GameSec. This time we're talking about games that, it's kind of ambiguous what they really kind of are. So we thought we'd take a look at some of these games that, defy a genre.
Yes. Games like Shenmue.
Yeah.
That game's not an RPG. It's not a platformer. We don't know what it is.
Yeah, it's Shenmue.
Yes.
But we've already looked at Shenmue, so we're going to look at a bunch of other games. So
Yeah, and these are games, at first I had a hard time picking them out, but, as you look through them, you can find them, and there's a lot of them out there.
Yeah, indeed. So let's get to it. Let's start off with Ranger X on the Genesis. What is it? Well, it's not a platformer, it's not a run and gun, and it's not a shooter, though it contains elements of all these types of games. But it is an ambitious game that may frustrate you when you first start playing, as the controls take a while to get used to. You control a mech that can fly for a limited amount of time, and you also control a ground-based scooter type of thing at the same time. It's really weird, but once you get used to it, you'll find ways to make the scooter help you shoot down enemies that are always blocking your shots. You can also combine with your scooter to shoot a homing style weapon and also recharge and change your special weapons. In some stages, you'll get a floating ship instead of a scooter, which provides a few of the same benefits, but you can't really control it. The missions usually revolve around destroying a certain number of enemy devices, and of course there's plenty of boss fights as well. You'll find that sometimes it's really hard to avoid being hit. But like I said, the game is frustrating at first, but soon you'll be figuring things out and blasting your way through the stages. It's a really fun game that you shouldn't dismiss too soon. The graphics are really well done with lots of parallax and other cool effects. It even has some Star Fox quality graphics between the levels.
Yeah, right. Star Fox quality, my ass.
Okay. I like the sound effects in this game too. As for the music, it's average, but it's good average, It's nothing to complain about and is fitting for the game, but I won't be spending any time in the sound test. Give Ranger X a try, it's a great game.
Kirby's Dream Course for the Super Nintendo is one of the more obscure titles in the Kirby library. It plays kind of like a putt-putt golf game, as you're playing by golf rules, trying to get Kirby in the hole using as few strokes as possible, but it goes way beyond a simple sports game. Each course is littered with obstacles such as trees, water, hills, spikes, and ledges. Some holes look kind of easy, and you really feel like you have a chance at a hole-in-one, but good luck, as it's trickier than it looks. That's because the object here is to hit all the enemies on screen, and the last one alive becomes a hole, so you can actually choose where the hole will appear depending on the order you take out the enemies. Kirby controls with a mix of putt-putt and regular golf. You can hit him along the ground or you can hit him in the air. There's a handy visual guide here to help you direct your shots. You can apply various curves, backspin, and front spin to help you get the extra leverage you need. Like in all other Kirby games, you can assume the power of some of the enemies that you hit, changing how the hole will play. It takes just a little bit of extra thought to try and pick the best path to get a hole-in-one. Graphically, the game is very appealing with loads of color. The game boards aren't anything special, but the backgrounds are really nice looking. The music is all of the good tracks from Kirby, and I love the music in this series, as it's always very upbeat and gets me in a good mood every time I hear it. A great game that plays like putt-putt golf, but isn't putt-putt golf at all. So, check it out, as it's not one to overlook.
Next up is Summer Assault for the TurboGrafx 16, where you control a pink slinky? Okay. In the beginning of the game, some chick sends symbols of the Zodiac to destroy the world so that she can rule it. Sounds like a weird plan, but whatever. And out of nowhere, a pink slinky appears and tells her that he's gonna thwart all of her plans. Seriously, why a pink slinky? The game wants to know your birthday before you start. Why? As you begin, you can do everything a normal slinky can do and much more. You can shoot, and you'll need to do this to defend yourself. You can also collect power-ups and jump and other good stuff like that. Now, it doesn't look to me like the enemies here are busy trying to destroy the world. They just look like they're floating around randomly without purpose, but if they touch you, they harm you. You also have a timer that's counting down, and when it reaches 60, the game pauses to let you know. It's kind of annoying, really. In later stages, when you touch certain blocks, it can create new paths for you to slink across, or flip to the other side of the wall, or warp you to a different spot in the level, and things like that. Basically, you're slinking around the maze. Jeez. Anyway, as I was saying, you're basically slinking around the maze just trying to find the boss. This game can be pretty tough, especially when you're fighting the faster bosses without any shot or speed power-ups. The graphics are decent and the music is pretty nice, but the game itself is just kind of weird and not necessarily in a good way. It's worth a play, but there's a reason this didn't turn into a sequel-filled franchise.
Balloon Fight on the NES is basically Nintendo's version of Joust. The main goal is to pop the balloons of your enemies by landing on top of them. Once their balloon is popped, you must finish them off by touching them. This sends them plunging to their deaths and you want them all dead, dead, dead. Rapidly hitting the A button flaps your wings and gives you altitude. Be careful not to get too close to the water or you'll get eaten by a big fish. This game is fun in single player, but the real fun is with 2 players. You can work together or you can kill each other. I'm sure many friendships have been lost due to this game.
I'll still be your friend, Dave, as long as you keep letting me play your games.
You know I'll always let you, Joe. We're pals. Now sit there and shut up, alright? Anyway, even if you accidentally pop your friend's balloon, expect him to go on a revenge spree popping your balloons for the rest of the night. Balloon Trip is also included in the game. It's a single-player game where the screen scrolls from the left. Along the way, you've got to collect balloons and bubbles for points while trying to dodge electrical sparks. One hit and it's game over. The control is great and you'll be doing lots of button mashing. The music is minimal, but what is here is very catchy, and any Nintendo fanboy can name this game just by hearing a sample of it. Get this game if you don't have it, you'll be pleasantly surprised.
And since the Wii U came out 2 weeks ago, we should definitely mention Nintendo Land. Why? Because Nintendo Land has a version of this game called Balloon Trip Breeze. It's a modern update of the classic, and every bit as fun, if not even more so. You use your stylus on the Wii U gamepad to control the wind to guide your Mii through a series of obstacles. It feels like a really fancy DS game in HD, to be honest, but that's okay. Even the music is updated and it sounds fantastic. This is the best game on the entire Nintendo Land disc for sure. It's probably the only one really worth playing multiple times in my opinion anyway. I wouldn't really recommend spending $60 on the Nintendo Land game, but if you've got the 32GB black Wii U, you already have it and you should play it. Flower on the PS3 is the epitome of a game whose genre is nearly impossible to classify. Once again, you're controlling the wind and you blow around flower petals in any direction you want to go. Touch another unbloomed flower and you collect one of its petals. Soon you'll have a ton of petals trailing behind you. You control the game by tilting the PS3 pad back and forth and press any button to accelerate. It works pretty well and you'll be surprised how quickly you get used to it. Basically, you fly around touching flowers to unlock the path to the next part of the level. Generally, it's a really peaceful game to play as it has fantastic graphics that are full of color and a calm orchestral soundtrack. But the game eventually does become less peaceful. Some of these areas where you've got to go require some really tricky maneuvering in order to... Ah! See? Don't touch those. My only real complaint with the game is that I would have preferred to be able to control it with a traditional analog pad, as I am so over motion controls in video games. But in all, I think this game could be summed up as what it might be like if a flower dreamed. Is that cheesy?
Oh jeez. And it's also a very feminine thing to say, Joe. Anyways, who knew a game like this could actually be entertaining? I had a great time with Flower. I liked it so much that I bought it twice. Yes, twice. The first game was a download from the PSN, and the second is the actual game disc, which actually has Flower, Flow, and Journey on it. Good stuff, and you should play it if you haven't. All right, Joe, that was a great start. We got a handful of great games out of the way, and
I was thinking the Wii has a lot of games that are really kind of out there.
Yeah,
because the system just.
I like the Wii.
Yeah, of course he does. Anyway, do you think the Wii has games that kind of fit in this episode?
I guarantee it.
Oh,
Actually,
really?
you know what? I'm going to show you one right now.
Oh, okay.
Boom Blocks on the Wii is almost a puzzle-style game that has play mechanics that remind me of Jenga and Arkanoid, maybe. It's quite a fun game and takes a lot of thinking to get through any of the hundreds of levels. You can't just start throwing balls or shooting blocks and hope to get a high score because that's not going to happen. Steven Spielberg had a hand in making this game. I'm not sure what he had to do with this, but I guess we should be happy it was him and not that ooey bowl guy or whatever his name is. Anyway, each world has a unique story and different types of games with different objectives. In any given level, the game may have you breaking down structures to collect gems. To get a high score, you must do it with as few throws of a ball as possible. Other levels have you clearing a path for a gorilla to get to her babies. Basically, you must remove obstacles from the gorilla's path to get her to her babies as quickly as possible to get the highest score. There are so many different types of games in this title that it never gets dull to play. The control is pretty good and you just use the Wii remote for everything. It would be nice if the game came out after the Motion Plus attachment for a bit better control, but is still completely playable. Graphically, the game is good looking and each world has a great atmosphere to go along with the story being told. The physics are really good and the blocks fly and fall in very realistic ways. All in all, this is a great game and very appealing to all age groups because of the simplicity of the controls.
Knights on the Saturn was supposedly the next big thing from Sega at the time. It launched with a 3D control pad, which is Sega's analog controller for the Saturn. In the game, you control a boy or a girl who's dreaming. Once you get to the gazebo-looking thing, you transform into a weird purple creature and you can fly around and get on with the game. What's cool is that this game has a widescreen mode for your 16:9 TV, so let's just go ahead and turn that on. In this mode, the polygon graphics are all rendered correctly, but all of the bitmap graphics like the sprites are stretched. Anyway, you can walk around freely in any direction as a human, but it really doesn't serve much purpose other than to get you to the gazebo thing. You basically fly on a predetermined path through loops and whatnot, collecting orbs. You keep looping through the level until you have enough of these orbs and deposit them at the thingy thing, which in turn destroys it. After this, your path through the level changes, and it does this 4 times per level. After that, you fight a boss, and after you defeat the boss, you go back to the title screen. Then you can pick a new level. Now, my main problem with Knights is that I don't really feel like I'm actually doing anything, even though the control feels great. It just seems like there's not a whole lot to the game. In all honesty, I think Sega was just hoping we'd fall for how much they were hyping it.
Well, I was one of those that fell for it. I really enjoyed Knights because it was unlike anything out there. I will agree that it was tough to control when doing loops and linking through all the chains. Also, I rarely think I ever got a B grade, usually I get a C.
Yeah, I usually get Ds. It's really tough to do much better. Now, the graphics are great for a Saturn 3D game with tons of color everywhere. The music is pretty awesome, almost all of it's done by the internal Saturn sound chip. This is what a cartridge game on the Saturn would probably sound like if they made them. They even came out with Christmas Knights, which was a free game for Saturn owners. It wasn't much more than a demo, but it was pretty cool as it would change depending on the date you played it, and it had Christmas-themed graphics and music. Overall, Knights isn't a bad game by any means, but I think if I had more freedom in the game, I'd enjoy it a bit more.
Knight's Journey of Dreams on the Wii is the sequel. This game is a great sequel in the sense that it has what everybody loved about the first game and added a bunch more. This time around, the player starts in a hub and can choose which world to enter. The first level in each world is the flying level similar to the first game. But this time around, the player must collect a key from a bird by killing it. Once he does this, a new branch opens for a total of 3 branches. After you finish all 3 branches, it's off to the boss fight. Again, the boss fights are very imaginative and fun to play. After this, 4 more missions open up, which range from flying around and killing enemies to becoming a dolphin and breaking bomb chains and all lots of weird stuff like that. Some of these missions are fairly entertaining, while others are more like a chore. The control is good, and again I had a bit of trouble collecting orbs and linking chains, but still had a great time. The music feels similar to the first game, which isn't bad at all, as I like the first game's music quite a bit. All in all, it's a great sequel, and anybody who's complained about the Wii's library probably hasn't played this. Rimpa Marble Mania on the Wii is a marble labyrinth type game where you control a marble around a linear path to the goal. All along the way you'll be avoiding obstacles and pitfalls which are littered throughout each board. This game is a good demo for the Wii Remote, as tilting in all directions is how you control the marble. It's tough to get used to, and your marble will plummet off the board and you'll die a lot. Once you do get the hang of it though, it actually becomes fairly fun. There's certainly no story here, and you just need to get the marble to the goal. You can unlock different types of marbles as well. These will have different attributes such as speed and handling, and also look different like animals or a jumble of cars or whatever. I used to really like this game when it first came out, as it felt kind of like a Super Monkey Ball alternative. Now after playing it again after all these years, it's still fun, but it's nowhere near as fun as Monkey Ball.
Isn't that the truth? This game certainly isn't a substitute for Super Monkey Ball, and I often felt the control can be twitchy at certain angles. It's also rather tiresome to play since you're physically moving the controller all around the entire time you're playing it.
Yeah, and you have to hold your arm up too, which sucks. A sequel was released called Marble Saga Rimpa, which is basically more of the same. It does add a story this time around, but really, who cares about a story in a marble game? It's hard for me to recommend these games as I feel that they don't have a lot of substance.
Agreed. I felt this one was also a lot more difficult than the original game, and I got frustrated with it rather quickly. It's a sequel to a game that didn't really need a sequel. Finally, we have Heavy Rain for the PlayStation 3. It's not a platformer, it's not a first-person shooter, and it's not a racing game, so what could it possibly be? Well, basically it's a game built entirely around QuickTime events. You play as several different people during the game. The main protagonist, Ethan, loses one of his sons early in the game, and now he's no longer the fun-loving guy that he used to be. He still has one son left, however, so he might as well make the most of it. You have quick time events for everything from talking to picking something up to pushing a merry-go-round and everything else. After you get used to it, you'll be handling the game just fine, though the control isn't perfect, especially for walking. Your other son eventually gets himself kidnapped after you black out for no reason whatsoever. Don't even get me started on this aspect of the game. It turns out someone has him and is making you do crazy things if you want to get him back.
Are you ready to show your courage in order to save your son? Listen carefully. Take the highway and drive against the traffic for 5 miles.
You've got to prove that you're willing to risk everything to save your son's life. Are you? Almost everything you do in the game is up to you, and some of the stuff you're asked to do is downright cringeworthy.
You have 5 minutes to cut off the last section of one of your fingers in front of the camera.
The game has amazing graphics, and I'm really impressed with how many sprites the PS3 can put on screen at once.
Haha, Joe, very funny.
No? Oh, okay. The musical score is also pretty good, and everything has a very gritty feel to it.
It could be that he puts him in some sort of well or tank that is open to the skies and that fills up with rainwater.
Although it plays like a crime drama movie, the only part about this game I really didn't care for is the story.
I'd like a room.
For you? Anything.
I mean, it's good until the end, but there are a ton of things that are never explained. But even so, it's still worth a playthrough. However, this game is definitely not for everyone. It clicked with me, but if you don't have a lot of patience for this kind of thing, you'll get tired of this game really quick.
You still have 3 miles to go before you reach your destination.
All right, guys, thanks for sticking with us. That's our show, and I know you're going to try to categorize these games and, tell us like Kirby's Dream Course was a golf game, but it's not.
Yeah, so anyway, what games do you guys feel that we didn't cover, perhaps defy genre, so to speak? Let us know, because that would be kind of interesting to read about.
Yeah, agreed.
Okay, and we'll see you next time. Aw, Dave, I tell you, I really like this Wii U. Nintendo is finally catering to us hardcore gamers, and what do we want? We want action platformers, we want racing games, we want RPGs. Nintendo is finally gonna give us what we want with this thing.
Well, okay, hold on, it's my turn real quick.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I see where you're coming from, but here, take a shot. I'm hoping that Nintendo keeps up with its genre-defying games that have absolutely no system. Great shot there. That have no substance and they're just filler games. I love those. Nintendo's great at those, and I'm really looking forward to them. Oh, awesome, dude. Great shot.